Hello, and welcome back to the Social Good Instigators podcast. I'm Kirsten, your host, and in this interview with Scott Reichenbach, we explore ways Cure Clubfoot has learned to extend their reach through various partnerships with local professionals and affiliates, as well as a partnership with Remit Radar, a payment processing company. While not a primary focus of the call, one thing that really stands out for me in this interview was how sometimes the simple act of raising awareness can help eliminate negative stigmas.
Welcome to the Social Good Instigators podcast, where your host, Kirsten Bullock, interviews leaders of social entrepreneurship ventures who share what's working. Please add the podcast to your favorite RSS feed or iTunes. Now, let's get on with the show.
Hi, Scott. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Kirsten.
Now, in addition to serving as the operations director for Cure Clubfoot, Scott previously pioneered the post-residency program at Samaritan's Purse World Medical Mission. It's a program to help young physicians transition from their medical or surgical training to a career in international medical missions. He has a background in nursing and resides in Pennsylvania with his wife, Rachel, and their 3 children. And you can read his full bio on the podcast page. And Scott, could you kick us off by just sharing really briefly about Cure Clubfoot and the work that you do?
Sure. Clubfoot is a disability that affects about 1 in every 800 children born. Children are born with either one or both of their feet turned inward and downward, making walking difficult or impossible. And so for those of us born in developed countries, who have access to quality health care, we typically receive the Ponseti method, which is a simple method of casting, bracing, and the disability, the foot is corrected and the disability is eliminated. But for children in low and middle income countries, they don't have access to this care and they grow up disabled. And for a couple $100, we can cast their foot, correct their foot, and eliminate disability and provide them a future free of disability and free of hope and promise. And so Cure Clubfoot is currently working in 18 countries around the world, working with local hospitals, governments to train healthcare providers how to do the Ponseti method, and then helping them get the word out that clubfoot can be treated and the locations where services are available.
Okay, great. So would you say that communicating out that services are available has been a big challenge for you?
That really is one of our biggest challenges. Kids born with clubfoot or born really with any disability in a lot of low and middle income countries are often hidden. The families face a lot of stigma, particularly the mothers. The mothers are viewed as the person who caused it. Either they're cursed or it's karma or whatever belief system is in that area. Typically, it's the mom's fault. And so the mom faces a lot of shame and dishonor because of it. So they hide the children and don't seek care. And a lot of them don't know that clubfoot can be treated. And so getting word out to them and raising awareness in the community that this is something that can be treated very simply and honestly, quite cheaply, is one of our biggest challenges. Hey, this is something that we can take care of.
Neat. So do you see women welcomed back into communities? Do they regain some of their? Oh, that's good.
Yeah, absolutely. It's awesome to see. I mean, the program has gone beyond the impact on the child, the impact on the mom in the community, the impact on the marriage relationship in some of these where the husband will leave because if you're going to give me disabled children, I'm going to go find another wife. So in each one of our clinics, we put counselors in there to work with the families, to work with the communities, to help educate and train. And we're even seeing it impact other disabilities. People start to look at other birth defects a little bit differently, knowing that hey, this child was born with club foot, his feet are now straight, and look, he's grown up to be a normal productive member of society, a normal child running and playing with the other kids. It's really helped to break down some of those barriers. And then to see the reconciliation within communities has been incredible.
That's awesome. So in getting the word out, what really caught my attention was this partnership that you have with Remit Radar, and which is a for-profit company. I understand they do payment remittance. And so they came to Cure Clubfoot a few years ago and wanted to find out more about how they could help. So communicating that out, I think, was one of the things that you said that they could help with.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's one of as I just said, one of the biggest challenges that we have is raising awareness and sensitization that this can be treated. And so Remit Radar came to us actually just last year, so less than a year ago. We really started talking about how can we use the technologies that they have, the information they have on communication patterns, the way messages are disseminated. Technology is exploding. Money remittances, electronic transfers, those kind of things, even in low and middle income countries throughout Africa. A lot of people have cell phones and mobile smartphones even now. And so being able to use that platform as the way to send short little messages, say, clubfoot can be treated, and helping them identify where services can be rendered is what we're working together towards.
Mm-hmm. And you talked earlier about how Remit Radar has been able to help you really identify the ways that people communicate with each other so that you can provide those communication pieces in areas and places that they'll see and notice. Has that been a big benefit for you?
Yeah. Companies like Remit Radar, 20 years of experience in this world and using technology and really understanding technology and the information that can be gained just through user profiles is what we're really trying to capitalize on. And so using that intelligence to then figure out the best communicators of the message, and then how that message is shared throughout a community. And so they have the resources that us as a small nonprofit don't have. And they have the experience, 20 years of experience using this technology. The Cure comes with the experience of working with local governments, training, educating, strengthening the local health system, and then combining that now with the technology and skills and resources of Remit Radar to be able to capitalize on the growing tech infrastructure in countries is really exciting for us.
Very neat. So with any partnership, there's often some hiccups along the ways, things that we learn and have to work through. And I would imagine other nonprofits and social good organizations who are partnering with technology companies might run into these too. What were some of the miscommunications or misfires that you may have experienced early on in this partnership?
Initially, it's just learning what each other brings to the table, understanding how Cure as a nonprofit works, and our end goal, and then realizing the capacity that Remit Radar brings. As we started talking about where we could do this, one of our ideas was Niger. And then as we got to exploring what level of internet access Niger has as a country on the bottom of the HDI, the Development Index, you realize that, well, there's going to be a huge challenge in using technology in Niger. But that was the great thing about Remit Radar. They were willing to try. I think companies like that have the ability, the resource, the experience to say, you know what, it may be challenging here, but let's give it a go and see what we learn. We all might learn something out of it. And so that's been a challenge that we're working on and sort of going to grow together through.
So it sounds like there was a lot of trust built in really early on, that they were willing to try and you were brainstorming together. What do you think helped develop that so quickly?
Yeah, I think it's our eagerness to get the word out and their willingness and eagerness to try and do good as well. I think it just came from early on in the meeting and relationships that were developed between the two organizations, just seeing the goal that each one had, and just saying, you know what, for Remit Radar, we've never done this thing before, and for Cure Club Foot to say we've never done this before, but let's give it a go and see what we can do. And just understanding the experience that Remit Radar brings to the table brings a lot of comfort, knowing that they've been very successful in getting the message out about remittances in the developing world. So why not do this with healthcare? Why not do the same platform to raise awareness that, hey, if you're suffering from this, access to treatment is available, and let's see what happens together.
That's exciting. So what kind of successes have you seen in this already?
Well, we're very new at it still. So we're still working through the messaging on what messages will work. Are we able to use images? With Clubfoot, a picture is worth 1,000 words. And so are we going to be able to use images? How do you really communicate this out is really we're at the ground level of this partnership. So I would love to say we've seen thousands of kids, but we're not there quite yet. So we're still learning together.
Well, we'll have to have you back on the podcast in another year so that you can share all that.
That would be great. That would be great. Yeah.
So with the way that your Cure Clubfoot is structured, you have local groups who are working on local issues. You mentioned when we were talking previously that the India group is run completely by people from India, and the group in Kenya is run by people from Kenya. How does that structure work? How does that live itself out?
Yeah, so the way Cure has modeled the program is to find a local implementing partner, local group. Some places it's a healthcare center, St. John of God in Ghana. In Mozambique, it's a health education and research group called MIHER. And so we join forces with them. Again, it's a partnership there with them to, again, you share resources. This is what we bring to the table. These are some of the resources they bring to the table. Let's work together to take this forward. And then hiring local staff to manage and run this program. So all our programs are run by nationals who know the culture, know the communities, know the languages, and know the connections to make and access into the ministries of health and governments and hospitals to help, again, disseminate the message, to do the training, to raise the awareness. And so that program manager manages the program, and then each clinic site has a national counseling coordinator or counseling staff who work and manage each clinic site and work with the families to ensure quality of care.
Nice. And I understand that you've brought everybody into, I believe, Kenya to meet together and learn from each other. So right now, do you have representatives from all 18 countries with you in Kenya right now?
Yeah, we just have our African countries here. So there's representatives from 13 countries here in Nairobi for this week. We're all gathered together to learn from one another. What has worked in some countries that might work in other countries, and what are some of the challenges some face, and how have others addressed those challenges. So just a great week of sharing ideas and thoughts and passion to fuel for another year.
Mm-hmm. So this is your second year doing this gathering, correct?
Yes.
So it went well the first year.
It did. Really sorry. It creates a community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, our clubfoot programs range from 30 clinics in a country to one clinic in Benin. And so they often feel like islands out there doing it alone. So to be able to bring them all together and have them hear from one another about what they've been doing, and be challenged by each other, to be encouraged by each other, to use the skills that each other has to make the program stronger, means less kids facing disability.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like a neat way to really help reinvigorate everybody too, to get excited about the mission, to see other things that are going well.
Absolutely.
So what are some of the tangible things that you've seen grow out of the first year?
Well, it goes from the very basics to encouraging and training in leadership. So many of our program staff haven't had any sort of leadership training. And so how just using our experiences around the table, and how do you motivate, how do you encourage your staff when they live hundreds of kilometers away? And so we've seen local programs get stronger. We've seen the sharing of knowledge and information of, this is a tool that I developed in my country, and now we're seeing it being shared throughout the network, to, hey, we made this relationship with this bank who is very interested in helping us take this program further. And it just, in every aspect of the program, from the education of local providers, what has worked and what hasn't worked, to raising awareness, to the follow-up. We like to see our kids come back for up to 5 years. And so what are some of the strategies that some have used in some countries that now we've been able to transfer to another country, to see that program grow even stronger. So it's really just it's been a great time of, again, sharing learnings. We talk a lot about monitoring, evaluation, and learning. And so we've done a lot of monitoring and evaluation, and now we're sitting around the table learning from one another as to how we can take the program forward.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes in the nonprofit world, we seem to get so focused on doing that we forget just take a step back and really reflect. It sounds like this is really a time like that for you, to step away from the day-to-day, to focus on perhaps a bigger picture and all that shared learning that can come from it. Would you say it sounds like it's been a good investment, but I don't want to put words in your mouth.
No, it really does. You know, our program managers are the ones who put some of these reports together to share locally, but to give them an opportunity here at this meeting to stand up and present their data and their findings, it forces them as well to become much more introspective. It's very easy, as you said, to get busy, to go out and just do. And so in preparation for this meeting, they have to look back over the last year. What have I done? Where have I failed? What have been the successes? And where am I going? And it forces them to create a plan and a vision and give them ownership for it. You know, it's like talking about your own child. They get to stand up in front of our group and and talk about their baby and how their baby is seeing more kids. And these are the success stories. And our hope is that they go back stronger and more empowered to get the word out and to see more kids healed from clubfoot.
That's exciting. And I'm glad that you mentioned that one of the things that they do is reflect on where they failed, because sometimes we tend to also want to gloss over failure and not really spend any time on it. But that can be some of our greatest learning experiences. Is there a time for you where you've done something you felt at the time that was a failure, but you've been able to learn from it? And could you share with us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think for us, one of the big things is working within the local health system. Early on in our program, we faced such a desire to get in, to make it happen, and be successful. Like, we're going to start a new program, we're going to open 10 clinics, and we're going to have them all functioning within the next 6 months. And we did that. We were able to make those things happen. But then you look back and they continue to flounder, they continue to struggle, in part because it was our desire and our vision, and we needed to make it happen. And we've taken a step back and we've learned from that. And the two programs we've opened most recently in Benin and Burkina Faso, we've started with one clinic and have just grown so much more organically. And through that organic process, these programs have just blossomed. And although it's been slow going at first, we're now seeing them about ready to explode. And explode not because Cure wants more clinics, but because the national staff want more clinics. The government is telling us, no, you need to be here, here, and here. We have better partnerships within the country, with the government, within the health education system. In Benin, for example, in this next year, we're going to launch the treatment method that we use is called the Ponseti method, named after Dr. Ponseti out of the University of Iowa, who developed this method. And so one thing we've talked about in a lot of our programs is how do we get the teaching of this method into the medical schools, into the physiotherapy schools. And we've struggled everywhere we've been to make that happen. But yet in Benin, we're getting ready to do that. Even though we only have one clinic in the country, I think it's been some of those learnings over the years of us forcing it that have sort of created some barriers unbeknownst to us at the time. That now, by going more slowly, having better relationships with the government on the front end has opened up doors into the education system that I think will pay dividends in the years to come.
Oh, absolutely. That's exciting. So as we close out, do you have any final words of inspiration or encouragement for other leaders of nonprofits or social good efforts?
Yeah, and I think it's that, like, just take it slow. We all face this desire to have huge numbers, to make an impact, and sometimes by slow and steady will win the race is what we're finding. And so I think it's okay to maybe be a little bit more methodical about it. And again, and what we've embodied throughout the Clubfoot program for years is just empowering the local staff, and really seeing our role as the expats or the international offices, really in facilitating and building up and mentoring our partners in country. They're the ones who are going to carry this on. It's an exciting legacy for us to see the end of the disability of Clubfoot and to be able to empower them with that message and that goal, something that's achievable. They know the system. Let's leave it up to them to really challenge it and not get in the way.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much, Scott, for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Kirsten.
You're welcome. And thank you to all our listeners for everything you do to make the world a better place.
Thanks for listening to the Social Good Instigators podcast with Kirsten Bullock. If you like what you just heard, we hope you'll check out our prior episodes and that you'll pass along our web address, socialgoodinstigators.com, to your friends and colleagues in the social good sector.